Well, can you all believe that it is day 2 already? But I guess time flies when we are having insightful conversations, doesn't it? Well, first up, ladies and gentlemen, let us take a quick trip down memory lane. Let's talk about the phenomenal discussions that this stage witnessed yesterday. Well, right from having extensive conversations about forex markets to Bitcoin, we also talked about, of course, the crypto traders to what are really the turnkey digital asset solutions for brokerages. Well, I must say the stage also witnessed some fantastic presentations on AI to some groundbreaking panel discussions. I believe that we spoke about it all. Well, I must say that if you were in this room yesterday, you would have left back home with at least one fresh perspective, I must say. But I have to say that that was just the beginning. It was just the prelude to day 2, because today, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to have a vast array of subjects that our speakers who would be joining us on stage will be talking about. Well, today we are going to talk about right from the personal finance strategies for entrepreneurs to the impact of AI and blockchain. We're also going to talk about some very, very important strategies of demystifying offshore market. And in the evening, of course, we have reserved time for the most awaited segment, which is the Money Expo India Awards 2024. So I think this already sounds too glorious, right? So I believe that it is time we bring it live on stage. So let me first up begin by asking you all the most definite question. Are you ready? Okay, just 1, 2, and 3. Yes, I could hear. Let's make it as loud as we can so people even outside gets to know that we have really resumed at the conference hall 2 for Money Expo India 2024. Are you all ready? One more time, I believe that you'll have chai and coffee outside, and I believe it has more energy than any distilled drink in the world. So let us bring that energy back in the air and make this day 2 of Money Expo India even bigger and louder. Come on, are you all ready? Yes. Wonderful. This is Priya Shrimankar, your host, and I extend my warmest reception to each one of you at day 2 of Money Expo India 2024. But I believe that you all will agree with me when I say that events like these are only and only possible with the overwhelming support of our partners and sponsors. I'd like to thank our elite sponsors, DuPont, GTC, Multibank Group, HDFC Sky, to also our diamond sponsors, Oz Global, Just Markets, Dun, New Chain, Trillionaire, TradeView Markets, Spectra Global, and Trading Pro. So can we give the biggest round of applause for all our partners and sponsors? Thank you. And also I must say that we have a very interesting hashtag for our online community. So I would urge you all to please share all your thoughts, that you get to experience from this side of the hall onto your social media handles with the hashtag Money Expo India 2024, and do not forget to tag us at Money Expo India. That is where the online community is waiting to know of all the action that's happening right here at Money Expo India. And now, without any further ado, it is time to kickstart with the first session of the day. Well, I believe yesterday we had some extensive conversations, but there was one thing missing, which was the presence of women on stage. So that's what we are going to really kickstart our day with. We have 2 phenomenal women leaders joining us on stage to shine a spotlight on the challenges and opportunities for women in finance and how to make space more inclusive. So first speaker joining us on stage is a leading fintech expert and head of product at LXME, India's first digital platform for women's financial empowerment. Well, with over a decade of experience in banking and fintech, she is a pioneer in digital lending and financial inclusion. Recognized as a top fintech leader, she shares her knowledge through her popular blog and YouTube channel, The Fintech Chronicle. With a round of applause, let's welcome on stage Ms. Kamalika Poddar, Lead Data and Product, LXME. Let's give a big round of applause for her. Warm welcome, Kamalika. Next up, joining us on stage for this fireside chat is a product manager at Federal Bank. Apart from that, she's founded WISE, and community which provides digital and financial literacy to underprivileged people. She also runs a small product community which sets up product meetups every month, which is a subset of India's largest product community, AKM, based out of Bangalore. Well, her niche lies in credit cards, product development, onboarding flows, unsecured lending policies, and the technicalities of lending product. We have with us the product manager, founder, WISE, which is Women in Social Enrichment, Digital and Financial Literacy NGO, Ms. Chaitanya Bhargavan. A round of applause as she steps forward. Well, now that I have all that attention towards this stage, louder please, and attentive round of applause for both our women right here. Well, over to you all to please take this forward. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I mean, so much of energy. I'm just hoping both of us can keep up.
Yeah, I hope so. So, thank you, Priya. I think that was a very warm welcome. Now, so Kamalika, let's have this fire chat. And starting from my viewpoint, that I would really like to ask you, so how are you keeping up Lakshmi out of all the challenges that we have? Because you know there are a lot of app which is dominating in India in terms of investment, and it is never focused on women.
That's
it's like
true,
you know, every man has this app on their mobile, but I never see a woman having such an app.
That's actually true, you know. So even when we were kind of building out Lakshmi, by the way, Lakshmi happens to be one of India's very few platforms that's catering to building financial agency and financial wellness for women. So right from, you know, the entire literacy program, building a community where women find it safe to talk about money, anything finance related without judgment. So the initial days when we started out Lakshmi, we kind of realized that, funnily, the apps that women had on their phone were probably, the only finance app was probably a UPI app, and this was also because we were building Lakshmi as a COVID baby. And can anyone guess what other apps probably women had on their phone at that point in time? Any guesses?
You mean a financial app?
Any app, any other app.
I'm sure there will be shopping apps, that's for sure.
It was Candy Crush. So women love to play Candy Crush. And unless and until most financial apps, if you see, and I have extreme respect for, you know, all the fintech apps that people have built out there, but they don't cater to women who are used to playing something as easy and intuitive as a Candy Crush. It's most apps, if you see, they're very number oriented. They're very, you know, the graphs and charts, which to someone who's doing a lot of fundamental analysis, yes, it makes sense, but someone who understands money intuitively, understands money as something that gives stability to her family, that kind of an aspect was kind of missing. And by the way, this is not just an India-centric problem at all. I think globe, all over the world as well, this has been a challenge where most of the conversations that we have, women, when it comes to money, women are not a part of it. And I think it's very funny in India because we all pray to Goddess Lakshmi when it comes to, you know, taking care of all of our financial problems. But on the dinner table, we exclude the Ghar Ki Lakshmi from those financial conversations. So I think that's kind of what we want to build at Lakshmi. But that said, Chaitanya, you also have a very interesting experience while, you know, both of us have probably grown up and been in metro cities where by and large most women are to a certain degree independent. I won't say fully independent, but yes, fairly independent. But you've worked, you know, when it comes to founding WISE, you worked at the other spectrum of seeing women and how they deal with money. So what's been your experience with money? And I'm taking notes, so.
Yeah, so it was like I have worked with people who are majorly from Tier 2 and Tier 3 cities. Not even cities, very rural area.
Yeah.
So, you know, where women were not even able to use a mobile phone. So the thought process entirely was, why even a mobile phone, which is a very basic need for a person, irrespective of the gender, is not being used or is not being taught effectively to a woman. So when we started researching, we found out that there are a lot of women who really wanted to have a perspective of the digital world, and but they never got the opportunity. But I'm very sure nowadays government have a lot of schemes which help to improve their digital literacy and their vision. But at pre-COVID time, it was a very stringent market. So that's how WISE started, wherein we had provided digital literacy to more than 1,000+ women coming from different municipalities, panchayats. We never went to a metro city. We never went to where the accessibility is very high.
Yeah.
We always went to a place where women had very low accessibility to all the digital apps and everything. And the funniest conversation when you said about Candy Crush, the funniest thing that came into my mind was a woman was trying to figure out why money was keeping on debiting from her account.
gosh.
But she never figured out. But then we went to her, we spoke to her, we understood that it was her son who was actually using a gaming app, and he was using the money in order to play it.
Oh
So
my
that's
gosh.
how we figured it out. So that's kind of gap that we have. Even a child can use a phone and pay for their game apps, but that is where women who are not actually having that accessibility to use a mobile phone and investment. I think the financial literacy is up. It's like way far away for women.
Do you think that's also because most of us women, and no disrespect out there, but most of us women typically look up to the male figure in our lives for any of our financial needs?
Yeah, so coming from that point, it's always either you are a daughter first, then you are a sister, then you become a wife. So leading a way ahead in life or being independent is a very less thought process in India. That is what I feel. But post COVID, there has been a lot of changes. Many women coming up, and it's like a very good thing to see this is happening. But we are only seeing the tier 1 cities, the metro cities where the accessibility is there. We are never seeing the part where there is no accessibility, there is no visibility to women. So there are like 50-55% of people still are figuring out to come up to be on the fast pace.
Yeah.
So
I think that's actually, you actually made a very interesting point, which is that, we're always a daughter first, a sister first, some sort of a role that we play first, because when it comes to the investment behavior or the difference in the investment behavior between men and women, one study found that typically men start investing much earlier, because of which the power of compounding kicks in earlier for them and they're able to build their wealth faster and better. Whereas women typically start investing from the age of 35, 38, 40. And I think that's because our self-discovery process itself starts rather late in
true,
life.
true.
We're always fulfilling roles that we're meant to do for our family, for others around us, rather than first service ourselves. I mean, just giving a very, this might be a very naive example, but in an airplane, they always say that, in case of a crash, if there is an air mask, first help yourself before you help others. But I don't think intrinsically we were just not tuned to be that way.
yeah, very true. So but opposing that, not just few facts that I found out. So when we went to certain panchayat, there were men heading that panchayat. They were very interested. Oh, if you're providing this to all the women here, we are also very happy because we want to bring them, forward. So there are a good set of people who thinks in that way.
Yeah.
But yet we are still to cover a lot of parts. Like it's just a very small part we covered. So I hope there are a lot of challenges that we are going to see going ahead. But Kamalika, just tell me, while marketing Lakshmi or while you are bringing in Lakshmi to people, what how are you, covering all these parts? Like you might be focused on a tier 1 city where the accessibility is there. Then how do you plan to come up to a tier 2 or tier 3 city where women require, this is a need of the hour to have a financial literacy, but the accessibility is not there. So I think the digital as well as the financial literacy go hand in hand. So how are you planning for that?
So this is where, and I'm so glad that there are so many men in the audience, because I don't think any financial inclusion or any inclusivity and diversity conversation can actually exclude the men. Until and unless you have the support of men, until and unless men buy into, the entire idea of, it can be any inclusion, this thing, it can be about education, it can be about financial literacy, anything. Until and unless men buy into the concept, I think bringing that change is next to impossible. Like just for example, I remember one of the customers I spoke to, and she was a very smart woman, by the way. She'd done like engineering from one of the better colleges in India, was working for like 3-4 years before she got married. And those 3-4 years, when she was staying all by herself and was independent, she did everything herself. But after she got married, she stopped. Pucho kyun? Because my father-in-law is there, na? He'll take care of everything for us. So it's not even like father, it's not even like husband, it's father-in-law. And that kind of tells me that, until and unless the men in our lives actually think us capable of taking decisions for our own selves, we are not going to get that confidence either, because it's just ingrained into us to kind of look up to someone else and ask them for their opinion. And I mean, I've had a completely different upbringing, to be very honest. I think the first financial advice I got was from my chachi, who said that, 25% of your salary that you're getting needs to definitely go into an investment. And then I sat down with my bua to understand what all she's invested in. So I've had women, very strong women influences in my life, and the men in our family, they always treated, like there was no difference. There was literally no parity between, say, my cousin brother and me, and we're very close in age. So if he could play football till 10 in the night, there was no reason I couldn't. So I think that way, because I had the support of the men in my family, and I know it's very easy for me to say it because I've not faced that judgment or that prejudice that comes with being the women of the family. Arey, if you're wearing shorts and going out, then log kya kahenge? That I never had that. I think that's kind of helped me, and that's where I feel even at Lakshmi, we don't want to exclude the men from the conversation. And we've seen a lot of men coming in and saying that my daughter is just 3 years old today, but I want her to go abroad and study. So the mindset is definitely changing over there. I'm super glad for that. And they're like, so it's going to be very expensive, when she turns 18 for me to fund her education then. So I want to start a fund for her. So I think that is a conversation that needs to be had. And I think that's also very important to recognize the role that men play in enabling financial inclusion. And I think even you've seen this in your journey at WISE.
Yeah, very true. When we started on WISE, actually we were associated with a community known as IEEE. And the engineering students were the volunteers. So we specifically wanted the people who had a background of tech to be actually going to these women, because they themselves get an exposure. Yeah. So our basic strategy was to include engineering students, and the amount of boys that came up, we had to carry out the laptop, we have to take a, usually we have a Saturday, Sunday off, but these guys, they bought their laptops, they came to any rural place. And the second thing I found very interesting was they made sure the girls who come for volunteering are safe. Like they are going back to their home, they are teaching them, and they're reaching back to their home. I think the perspective of their thoughts were too good when I met the younger generation. So I think the landscape itself is changing. There is no question about it. Yeah, and by the way, the example that you said, I feel that the thinking of women is also should also be strong when men are thinking so good. So I think the platform that you are building is great in terms of awareness. So coming to a corporate perspective, when you were growing ladders of corporate life, have you ever faced a challenge wherein you being a woman and you climbing ladders up in tech field or a financial field, have you faced challenges in, tapping all those single achievements in your life?
How much of this can be edited out? No, just kidding. But I think, honestly, when I first started being part of boardroom meetings, I was 27 years old. And fortunately or unfortunately for me, the only 3 people in the entire room who understood data was probably my CEO, my COO, and myself. So that kind of helped me because most other people, and this was back when I was a part of PayU, and I still remember very distinctly, what Anirban, the CEO of PayU, used to say even back then was that, guys, you guys are giving me numbers on the basis of hope casting. Hope casting is never a strategy. And then he'd turn around to me and the CEO and be like, do you guys agree with this? And I was the youngest and the only woman in the room. I would actually freeze at that point in time. It's very scary. But then he'd be like, no, Kamalika, I know you have a point of view. Please go ahead. So I think the support that I got from the leaders at PayU when I was there was something that really shaped me up. Now when people see me and they're like, oh, you're so confident, I wish I had your level of confidence and all of that, I really go back and, thank the support that I don't even think Anirban realized the kind of support he was giving me at that point in time, but it really helps that the highest paid person over there looks to you for your opinion, and that matters. He made you feel like as if your voice counts. It might be the softest voice in the room, it might be the only voice in the room, but your voice counts. And that's not to say that, others didn't feel insecure about it. We used to have a lot of, I used to go back home crying a lot of times, and I'd call up my mom. I was staying away from my parents. So that was another downer. So I would call up my mom and be like, I was doing this, and the CEO was going to appreciate me, but then people came and pulled me down. And then I think, again, powerful women in my life did help. And my mom would say that, you know what, every time you're trying to fly, there will always be someone who tries to catch your leg, either in the hopes of flying along with you or to bring you down. Now you need to figure out that if you want to pull this person up and fly along, do you have that strength in you? Or are you going to succumb to it and just fall to the ground? It's up to you to decide. So I think, power of both being at the right place, having met leaders like Anirban and Himang who really nurtured, irrespective of your gender or your background, it's the value that you bring to the table that they kind of nurtured that's helped me, and it's helped me ignore the naysayers, which I think, let's face it, all women have a bit of imposter syndrome. So, having such kind of leaders really did help because they made you feel valued. They made you feel that, the doubts that you have in your mind are just in your mind. None of us think that way. But have you had such experiences in your...
See, I will comment on a perspective where I have worked with the students, the tier 3, tier 2 people. And I feel that there is a lot of scope of improvement in that area. You have a lot of men who actually want to support women, but there is a huge community outside there which drags you back also. That dragging is always there. But I truly believe there is a good community of people, good community of men out there who honestly want to support.
Yeah.
And there is a set of people who doesn't want to. There are people who doesn't want to. Yeah, that is how life is. But when it comes to when we both come from a different parity over there, you coming from a corporate, I am sure the pullbacks will be much more bigger in corporate. But what I have seen is that whenever I go out and I talk to the leaders in panchayat, municipalities and all, who are mostly men. And they themselves want to figure out things, they themselves want to support women in every way possible, and that differs in different state also. For example, in Kerala we have a very good support for women. Every other panchayat has a female leader.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah,
so it's not just a diversity quota, but they actually they are empowered.
They are empowered. They are always kept on any decision making
Wow.
perspective. We always take that in that way. I think
Nice.
Kerala in generally have a very good principle that women are always included in decision making. Some places they are the sole earners.
Oh, wow.
So I think that kind of environment is very important. I think that has to change in many states, but as far as South is considered, I think there's a good environment for women. And when it comes to investment, the first thing that everyone in a tier 2 or tier 3 seek is the chit funds organized by the local
Yeah,
people.
yeah.
So the information about having a financial background or the financial literacy perspective is very less. There is a lot of potential wherein Lakshmi, I hope Lakshmi can empower women in a lot of ways. Yeah, Wise in its own is doing that, and we want to cover up more women. We want to cover up more panchayat municipalities wherein we can push our resources, we can push our people, volunteers, and help every underprivileged people, not just women. I'm not just focusing on women, even though our focus is to bring up women, our focus is also to provide the correct information, correct literacy to every underprivileged people.
But tell me something, and I think this is also a question to the audience in general. Do you think such programs should just be restricted to volunteering activities and CSR activities, or should we do a lot more beyond just, a good to do social sort of a thing? Do you think there should be a lot more structure around it than just a good CSR feel good activity?
No, I think there should be a very good structure because India itself is very diversified.
Yeah.
So without a structure, I don't think we can bring in anything here.
Yeah.
There has to be a strong layer, there has to be a strong structure which we are trying to build right now, and the environment is a very big thing.
Yeah.
So with 140 plus billion people in this country, I don't know, even the taxpayers are like 3%. So the financial literacy has a lot of scope to go in,
Absolutely.
and I think there should be a good structure in order to bring any change in this country.
Very true.
It's very diverse, but it's very layered.
So one of the structures that I've actually seen work really well are the women self-help groups, especially in the villages and remote areas of the country where, and they've actually been, like for example, when I was at Axis Bank, I was also part of the CSR activity was to volunteer our time at this foundation known as Dhan Foundation. And there I got to actually work with these women in the self-help group, and they were evangelists for financial inclusion, financial literacy. Some of them who had literally taken their families out of poverty. Like I remember I still get goosebumps when I think of her. But there was this lady where her husband was a drunkard who would just beat her up every night and squander away all the money that she had earned as working at people's houses. So what she did is, as soon as she joined this self-help group, every day's wages that she would get through Manrega or whatever, she wouldn't take it home. She would put it immediately into the self-help group's kitty, and by the end of the week, the self-help group would go and deposit all of that money into a fixed deposit. And everyone, they had very diligent record keeping and all of that. I think us fintech should also take, a lot of example from them and the kind of diligent record keeping that they did over there. And she was able to grow her, meager daily wages to an amount enough that she could fund her daughter. So her daughter, also very driven woman, got into one of the state colleges, engineering seat, and she was able to pay that entire money for her daughter's tuition fees. And I even when I think of it to date, it kind of gives me the chills, because she keeps saying that, I was able to give my daughter a life I can never have. And that's the kind of power when you enable or when you make a woman financially independent. You're not just helping her, but you're probably helping a generation of people to live a life that their predecessors never had. So that's the power of inclusion in my mind.
Yeah, true. Because when we started off with the program, the first thing that came to my mind is the self-help group that we have in Kerala. It's known as Kudumbashree. And you know, it's empowering in itself. You know, they have their own funds. I mean, they would ask women to invest in that funds on a monthly basis, a very small amount, like 1,000 or 500 rupees. And they would collect money from all the members. They then, you know, similar to chit funds, they would have takeaway, or a woman in need can take the money. So, you know, they themselves are trying a lot. The only thing they never got is a platform. As these self-help groups are doing too good in themselves that they don't need a support from outside. Whenever, you know, I feel that whenever a woman in need wants money or wants some kind of support, these communities comes in. And it's all in villages, normally in tier 2, tier 3, these self-help groups are, you know, a must-have community.
Absolutely.
A must-have community, and they help women in a lot of ways. And what I have observed, whenever there's a financial distress, it's the woman who thinks in that way, like, I could take this money from this self-help group because I've been investing there. It's never on the returns that they get. It's never on the interest percentage or the ROI that they get on the investment. It's always that they have been saving the funds.
Absolutely.
And one day when they are in distress, these women back them. So that kind of culture is amazing to see among SHGs. And I think that that's very empowering. That's very empowering, irrespective of the place or the place that they come from.
True.
We don't find that in tier 3 normally. It's normally in tier 1 and tier 2. And in that way, there's a lot of financial inclusion for women there. That's what I feel.
Absolutely.
And for you, what has Lakshmi been planning to, you know, have they ever thought of including SHGs on their bracket? You know, you can actually go there, go help these women, something like that.
So we have been trying to bring that community experience onto the app, and we've done a lot of, you know, community goal-based savings challenges, and, you know, towards building up that community feeling. So while it's not really the same concept as, say, an SHG sort of a chit fund, but yes, you know, we've tried bringing that angle in where you grow along with the rest of your community, and you can see that growth happening. And I think that's been one of the biggest, motivational factors for women, because when they're seeing another woman around her, or even maybe just a digital community that she's a part of, actually able to reach her goals and her dreams, which she thought was probably just, you know, going to be in the ether and never on reality, that motivates a lot more people to start taking charge. So yes, that's something that I think, while I myself am a big user of some of these big fintech trading platforms that are there, I think that aspect is definitely missing in the Zerodhas and the Grows and the Dhans of the world, which, touchwood, I think we're doing a good job of it, and that's something that it's an MVP that we wish to scale and kind of give to every other women in the world.
Great. So bringing on to one more point, even these SHGs, they have a scheme wherein they themselves run business. You know, the smallest of business. You know, I am sure many of us has heard about Lajpat Papats, which came out of such an SHG. Same way, these women also make or you know, build small business which gives an income to women in the family. You know, they are always familiar with the financial literacy, financial inclusion of women in that way. But the part where they know where to invest this money is a big question mark even now. You know, I am very sure every man in this group will have a, you know, investment app in their mobile phone, but not every woman. So that gap itself is a big thing in the industry. And I believe that Lakshmi can solve it to an extent.
Shameless plug, guys. That's why you should download the Lakshmi app.
Definitely. So the other thing that I was coming into is that when it comes to building a business, you know, every time there is an upper hand of a man being in the founding member, and, you know, and going out in the market, they have more visibility than women. This is what I think. What is your perspective on that?
Are you sure
because
I'm allowed
she
to
has
say that?
2 women founders, if I'm sure.
Yes.
I'm not wrong.
It's been a very refreshing change because it's just the kind of nurturing and care that women kind of bring in, and I've been very fortunate because even in one of my previous organizations, Axis Bank, when I was a part of Axis Bank, Shikha Sharma was at the helm of it. So I've seen that cultural difference that's there, and it's very empowering. So yeah.
Yeah, great. So even in my corporate life, I am working under very strong women who have their opinion and views. But the only part that we are missing out is how do we bring the underprivileged woman or the people who doesn't have a resource or who doesn't have a platform. How do we bring into this particular, how do we give them a freedom on that?
It all starts with their mothers. So you empower their mothers, you empower them.
Yeah, I think Vice is doing that.
All right, I think we are at time, so over to you as well. And I hope all of you did enjoy, and yes, if there are any questions, we would love to take them.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, first up, thank you so very much, Kumalika and Chaitanya. Can we have a round of applause for both our speakers? Well, I must say that was not just a fireside chat, but a masterclass in itself. So thank you so very much. And yes, I think we're open to take a few questions, especially from the women in this room. Any thought, any question, because I think the pointers that were just discussed right here, I'm sure that each and every woman somewhere would have experienced that in their lives, but it's just about opening up and talking openly about it. So this is an open forum. Anyone, especially the women in this room, would you like to share your thoughts, any questions? And of course, it's open for men as well, so you all can share your thoughts too. But right now, women is in the spotlight. So anyone, come on, let's keep this more interactive and engaging. To women in this room, anyone? Or any men who would want to share their views, points? Sir, yes? Anyone?
I think this is a very insightful conversation, and like I'm going through a journey wherein I'm starting my own company where I want to bring some kind of inclusion, especially with women or the balance of it. And I'm surrounded by a lot of strong women as well. So
Congratulations, sir.
yeah. I understand the emotional aspect of it. So, like as a first-time startup founder, like what suggestions do you give? Like, do you want suggestions for me, especially bringing that financial inclusion and also empowering or doing the hiring part for the company itself? And how do I kind of like solve the technology gap, like sometimes like women face, right? Especially men have a edge on the tech part. How do we kind of like solve that problem and take it forward? So just want to give.
Chaitu, do you want to start off, and then I'll probably add on?
Definitely. So my suggestion would be give them the platform, give them the freedom, because unless and until they try out, you can't figure out what women can do. I am very sure the women, strong women that are being surrounded with men like you, the only thing that you could give them is the space, the freedom to take a decision, to implement it. Once they start getting that space from your end, I am very sure there will be more opinion, more positive feedbacks and opinions coming into your company. And we have been taught, I'm not everybody, but women are taught to run a household. I am definitely sure if they are taught to run a company, they will make it 10x better than what you are today.
No, absolutely. And I think there is this, mindset that women are not that great or that conversant with tech, which I think we should kind of let go of, because, I mean, we've seen this, right? Whenever there is any sort of a stressful situation, it's the women in the household who kind of figure out what to do next. So just, do a lot of experiments is what I would say. Start out small. Don't think of having like the perfect sort of a thing right at day one. Just start off with a very incremental sort of a change that you've seen the powerful women in your life kind of do on a day-to-day basis. For example, just top of my head, what I can think of is every lady in the house has her khata book for, you know, managing her household expenses. So maybe you start off with something that's so intuitive for them that it's easy for them to grasp on. And as you see traction, don't hesitate to go back and tell them, what more do you want? What should we be doing better? And that's kind of a conversation that, you know, I make sure that my entire product team at Lakshmi also does. And even I do it every other day, not just my team. I take agency of myself too. And just go back and ask them for suggestion, and it's very humbling because women love to compliment others if they've, you know, benefited from it. So that positive reinforcement also will work for you, and be the kind of insights that they come up with. While it may be very intuitive for them, for you it will be like a aha moment. Oh, why didn't I think of it? I just had my blinkers on and I couldn't think of it. So that I would just say constant iteration. The last part that you spoke on was on the hiring aspect. So I really feel that you shouldn't restrict your hiring just to women or just to men. It's really about the value that the other person brings onto the table, one. And second, are they able to empathize with the problem statement and the users for whom you're trying to solve for? I think if you can find someone who has, you know, that kind of a sensitivity of character along with, you know, the technical skills, you found the perfect person to hire.
Thank you so much.
All right, thank you. Thank you so very much, Kamalika and Chaitanya. Can we have again a round of applause for both our women speakers? And I would urge you all to please join us at the center stage for a group picture. And I think I can say and sum up this conversation by saying that truly the liberty for a woman comes from the ability of making those financial decisions for her life. And yes, like I said, that was not just a fiery fireside chat, but a masterclass in itself. So thank you for really making time and joining us at Money Expo India 2024. Thank you.